Alex Murdaugh came from a prominent family in the legal scene of South Carolina, with his father, grandfather and great-grandfather all having served as district attorneys. Alex Murdaugh himself entered the legal industry, getting a law degree from the University of Carolina, and worked at the family's law firm. The law firm specialized in personal injury litigation. With his high-paying lawyer job, Alex lived in a multi-million-dollar, 1,700-acre estate in South Carolina with his wife Maggie and his two sons, Buster and Paul. Alex had long been addicted to opioid pain medications and had made some disastrous real estate investments, both of which put severe strain on the family's finances. While Alex was making hundreds of thousands of dollars per year from his job at the law firm, this was not enough to support both his opioid addiction plus the lavish lifestyle he and his family had become accustomed to. So he started stealing money from his law firm's clients. For example, if a client received a $2 million settlement for injuries they sustained in a car accident, Alex would tell them they only get $200,000 and pocket the rest for himself. He had been skimming money in this manner for more than a decade and had collectively stolen almost $10 million. In 2019, Paul Murdaugh, Alex's son, was driving his boat at a local lake. In the boat were a few of his friends, including a girl named Mallory Beach. Paul crashed the boat, with Mallory tragically dying as a result. Police tested Paul's blood alcohol level and found it to be 3 times the legal limit. Paul was released on $50,000 bail. Some people in the community were angry about the low bail amount and suspected that his father's connections in the legal system may have helped. By June of 2021, Alex's life was crumbling around him. Mallory Beach's family was suing Paul in relation to the fatal boat crash, with a hearing scheduled on June 10th. Also, some of his co-workers at the law firm were starting to get suspicious about the complex financial transactions he used to conceal his skimming of client money. On June 7, 2021, the law firm's chief financial officer called Alex asking about some of these strange transactions and missing payments. Alex knew he was about to be exposed. He needed a distraction, something that could buy him some time. On June 7, 2021, just hours after he was called by the CFO, Alex made a 911 call saying he had found his wife Maggie and his son Paul shot dead at the dog kennel located within their estate. When police arrived, he explained that he had just arrived home and noticed his wife and son were missing. He searched for them around the large property, eventually finding them dead at the dog kennel. If Alex was trying to create a distraction, the tragic death of his wife and son did exactly that. With Paul now dead, the civil lawsuit against him related to the boat crash was put on hold. Also, given the family tragedy, Alex's law firm paused the investigation into the suspicious financial transactions he set up. But this distraction could only last for so long. On September 3, 2021, an employee at the law firm found a check that was supposed to be addressed to the firm, but was instead addressed to Alex personally. Immediately after the check was discovered, Alex Murdaugh was asked to resign, which he did. About a month later, on October 14th, Alex was arrested for stealing millions of dollars from his law firm's clients. As Alex's numerous financial crimes came to light, detectives started to view Alex as the prime suspect in the murder of his wife and son, and new evidence started to cast doubt about his original story. Alex claimed he was not at the dog kennel prior to the shootings. However, a video on Paul's phone taken just minutes before his death clearly recorded Alex's voice. Also, Alex was an avid hunter who owned dozens of guns of various types, including shotguns and rifles. Maggie was shot with a rifle. Paul was shot with a shotgun. An analysis of the gunshot wounds were consistent with the calibers of guns Alex owned. In total, Alex Murdaugh had 3 recorded interviews with the police in relation to the murders. One on June the 7th, the night of the crime, one on June 10th, and a final interview on August 11th. The case of Alex Murdaugh is incredibly interesting to study, as we can see how a trained lawyer will tailor his story.
Just start at the top, take your time.
Like when I came back here,
I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and, you know, I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. My boy over there, I could see it was.
Sorry.
And I could see his brain on. And I ran over to Maggie, and actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first.
Alex breaks down crying when he recounts the horrific scene of finding his wife and son dead on the family property, and his emotions appear to be genuine. Just because he murdered his family doesn't mean it wasn't a traumatic event for him.
What made you come out here tonight?
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover, and she fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house. I left the house and went to my mom's for just a little while. Tried to call her when I left. Texted her, no response. When I got back to the house was obviously nobody was in there, so I figured they're still up here fooling around. Paul was gonna be getting set up to plant. Our sunflower seeds got sprayed and died, and he was refiguring to plant the sunflower seeds.
Okay.
So I came back up here and I drove up and saw.
Alex mentions that his son Paul was going outside to plant sunflower seeds. Alex is trying to add as much detail as possible to make his actions seem believable. He knew Paul wanted to plant sunflower seeds, so he drove up to the dog kennel, which is presumably where Paul would plant the seeds.
Have y'all been having any problems out here? Trespassers, people breaking in?
None that I know of. The only thing what comes to my mind is my son Paul was in a boat wreck a couple years ago, and there's been he was charged with being arrested for being the driver. There's been a lot of negative publicity about that, and there's been a lot of people online just really vile stuff. But when Paul's out and about, I mean, people routinely, I don't think I know the full story, because I don't think they give it to me, but I mean, he's been punched and hit and just attacked a lot. So, but I mean, nothing like this.
Yeah. Any one person in particular or group of people?
I don't know.
That you could think of?
Not that I know, no, sir.
Has he, other than being assaulted, has he received any direct threats related to the boat accident?
Oh, yes. All the time he gets
recently?
Threats. Yes, sir. I mean, he gets them all the time.
Okay.
He gets them all the time.
What kind of, I'm
gonna kick your ass, I've never been privy firsthand,
Is that through social media or?
No, ma'am. It's mostly like if he goes out places is what he goes out like somewhere. He's in college, so if he goes out is what I understand.
Okay.
And I can find out better details from some of his younger friends on that.
This is the crux of Alex's false story. Negative sentiment in the community related to Paul's boating under the influence case is a plausible motive for somebody to murder him. Importantly, Alex says the threads against Paul are not on social media, but are instead made in person when he was walking around on the street. This here is a key red flag. In today's age of social media, it seems implausible that somebody would be threatened in person, but not online.
So is there anybody that you can think of that we need to talk to tonight? Is there a name that comes to mind?
I mean, I can't tell you anybody that I'm overly suspicious of off the top of my head.
Okay.
You know? I mean, this is such a stupid thing. I'm even embarrassed to say it. But it just didn't make any sense. I just hired a guy out here, and he wasn't cutting the mustard, but I hadn't told him this yet. Paul's been working with him a lot. He killed the sunflower seeds in our dove field just recently, which is why Paul was here doing this. He told Paul a story the other day about how when he was in high school, he got in a fight with some black guys. And the FBI undercover team observed him fighting those guys and put him on an undercover team with 3 Navy SEALs. And that their job was to kill radical Black Panthers. And they did that from Myrtle Beach to Savannah. Now, I really don't think this guy, you know, is probably the person, but that's just so friggin'.
Yeah, that's kind of far-fetched story.
It's weird. But he was off today.
Okay.
He took his daddy to the doctor.
What's his name?
CB Rowe.
R-O-W-E?
Yeah, and I sent him a message to text me earlier today about the sunflowers, and he called me back when I was on the way to my mom's house.
Did you talk to him at that time?
Briefly, I was on the phone with a lawyer friend of mine named Chris Wilson from Bamberg, so I told him I'd call him back tomorrow, see him in the morning.
When you briefly talked to Mr. Rowe, what was his demeanor or attitude? Or
I mean, it seemed normal. I mean, I asked him about the sunflowers, and so, you know, I mean, I'm sure he's a little bit.
Where does he live?
I don't exactly know. Somewhere in in Bronson.
Okay. Do you have his phone number?
I do.
You got it with you, please, sir?
I do. You know, but I do think him and Paul got along pretty well. That's just really, really weird. All right. CB.
Alex brings up a groundskeeper they recently hired named CB Rowe. In addition to the crazy story CB supposedly told Paul, Alex says there were issues with CB's performance, saying he didn't cut the mustard. He's clearly trying to imply that CB Rowe could have been involved in Paul and Maggie's deaths. A disgruntled employee who tells crazy stories about having killed people in the past could certainly be suspicious.
Do y'all store any weapons out here?
We don't store them, but they're frequently out here. I need to find out if there were any out here, because I know there was a shotgun. There was a 12-gauge shotgun out here. I'll have to find out exactly when that was. I think it got put up, but I'm not positive.
What did that shotgun look like?
It was a camouflage. I want to say it was a Benelli or maybe a Beretta. I can't remember which brand it is. but I don't think it was out here
Okay.
recently. But I'm not positive.
And the shotgun that you had when deputies pulled up, where did that come from?
I went to the house and I got a gun. Probably overreacting, but.
And was that when you pulled up and saw them?
No, I mean, I came out and, I called 911 first.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to them for a little while, and then I told her.
You told her?
That I was going to go to the house.
Okay.
And that I would let authorities know when they got here that I had a gun.
Okay. Do you happen to have a list of all your guns?
I can make one. I don't have one, but
Yeah.
I can make one.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, so we could compare if that shotgun was out here and now it's missing.
Absolutely.
Try to figure that out.
No, absolutely.
And I know living out here in the country, you probably have more than one or two.
We do. We probably have 20, 25 guns.
Yeah. Shotguns, rifles.
Pistols.
Any rifles?
Yes, sir.
What kind of rifles?
All kinds.
Yeah.
All kinds. I mean, you name it, across the board, we have them.
Okay.
And all of them we have are, in a hunting room in our house.
Notice how Alex starts shaking almost uncontrollably after talking about the guns he owns. He knows that his guns were used to kill Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, but the guns were registered in his name and were on his property. He has no choice but to admit it. So, on the first day, Alex Murdaugh succeeded in telling a pretty convincing story to the police about a possible motive for Paul's murder. If somebody did murder Paul, it seems plausible that the killer would also kill Maggie to get rid of any witness. At this point, the police do not yet consider Alex to be the prime suspect. On July 10th, 3 days later, the same investigators came back to talk to Alex again. For the first 20 minutes, he gives more details about what he was doing on the day of the murders. For the most part, the new details he gave were consistent with the previous story he gave.
And we talked about this a little bit the other night too. I know Paul had been getting some threats and getting some being assaulted from, the boat. Who stands out in your mind, besides the boat incident? Who stands out in your mind that would want to come after Paul and or Maggie?
I mean, sir, I can't think of anybody who would want to go to that extreme, I mean, he got a bunch of threats, mostly from, I mean, I have no idea.
How would he receive most of those threats?
What do you mean?
I mean, would people call and hang up on him, or send him text,
it
or
wasn't
social
so much
media?
That it was mostly like in-person confrontations, are the ones that I learned about. Now, I suspect his friends can probably tell you about more, because I doubt Paul told me about all of them.
Okay.
The police kept pressing him about who would want to kill Paul. If the people threatening Paul were to call Paul's phone or leave messages on social media, they could be tracked down and investigated.
Have you talked to CB Rowe since Monday or Tuesday?
Yes, sir.
Because I know we talked about what he had done on the farm. Is he still employed?
He's still employed, because I got to have somebody keeping it clean, but I can't keep him. I mean, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And, I know I told you, I don't know why that story seemed important to me the other night.
Yeah.
I really can't see CB Rowe doing, I just can't. I really do not believe that.
Well,
sir.
I mean, it's an odd story.
It's a messed up story.
And, and I just, being in law enforcement for so long, and working these type cases, and I don't know the Arlington area, but talking to Colleton County and seeing the property and how isolated it is, finding somebody that's just going to randomly come up there that late at night that doesn't know the property, that's, so of course I have to look within and then start working my way out.
So you feel like it's not random. You feel like it's intentional. I mean, planned.
I don't know what to feel right now.
The cops are slowly starting to turn the heat up on Alex. It would later be revealed that CB Rowe's cell phone GPS showed he was not at the Murdaugh property on the night of the murders. And the police aren't buying the explanation that it was some random person who was mad at Paul because of the boating incident. This leaves Alex himself as the prime suspect.
Anywhere she could.
Yes, sir. Did y'all get fingerprints on her phone?
I haven't gotten that back yet.
When Paul's phone came out, did you just pick it up and put it on, place it back down on him, or?
Yeah, I did not try to open it or anything. I don't know how I had in my mind that I needed to not mess anything up. I had that, somehow I had that presence of mind that I needed to not mess anything up. And so I tried not to.
And you definitely saw a traumatic picture, and I know it's not hard, or not easy. I know it's hard. And sitting here talking today is tough.
It was just so bad. They did it so bad. He's such a good boy, too. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But the little things that we've kind of
I understand.
is necessary so that we can get a little better picture as to what may have happened.
When recounting the details of when he found Paul and Maggie's bodies, Alex breaks down crying, saying, "It's just so bad. I did him so bad. He was such a good boy." In this state of emotional distress, it appears that he inadvertently let the truth slip out. If Alex didn't kill his son, what reason would he have to say, "I did him so bad"? Over the course of the next 2 months, the police investigate CB Rowe and anybody else who could have a bone to pick with Paul Murdaugh, but they found nothing. So they call Alex Murdaugh back for one more interview, and this time Alex brings his lawyer.
So when you were at the kennels, you were just down there with Paul. You left and went back to the house for dinner.
Paul and I were just knocking around up at the shop, the shed, the kennels, and just the whole property. And that was before dinner, yes, sir.
And you didn't go back down there after dinner until you returned trip from visiting your mother?
Yes, sir.
I've got information that Paul was on the phone and Maggie was heard in the background and you were heard in the background. And that was prior to 9 p.m.
I heard Rogan Gibson ask me if I was up there. He said he thought it was me.
Was it you?
At 9 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. Not if my times are right.
Who do you think it could have been?
I have no idea.
And Rogan's been around your family for pretty much all of his life.
Oh, absolutely.
And he recognizes your voice, and you have a distinct voice. Do you think of anybody else that has a voice similar to yours that he may have misinterpreted?
No, sir. I mean,
Investigators were able to unlock Paul's phone and found a video taken around 9 p.m. where Alex Murdaugh's voice was heard just minutes before Paul and Maggie were shot. Police showed the video to Rogan Gibson, a family friend of the Murdaughs, and he confirmed it was Alex's voice. This contradicts the story that he previously told investigators that he didn't see his son or wife after they ate dinner that evening. Alex's defense is falling apart, and at this point, there's not much he can do to save himself.
One thing that I'm trying to understand is your timeline. You said you probably went to the office 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and you left early around 5 or 5:30. And there's been some other timelines or times that we've talked about and you can't quite remember what the times are or what time of day it was. When the dispatcher asked you when was the last time you saw Maggie or talked to Maggie, you said an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. To me, that's, a set, without thinking about it, you should route it off that time. We're sitting here trying to figure out a timeline and you're having trouble coming up with a specific time.
oh, that's fair. Tell me again what I said to the dispatcher.
You said an hour and a half ago, probably 2 hours.
And what time was that?
That was when you were on the phone, and the 911 call was made at 10:06. So given 2 hours back, that would have been 8.
I mean, I think that's probably about. I think that's probably about right. So, what do you believe I'm giving you an inconsistent answer?
No, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it when I'm asking you what time you went to the office that day, what time you got home. You said 5 or 5:30. I've got the card readout from the law firm, and it shows you going in at 5:30.
Going in the door?
Yes, sir. And Randy says when he left about 6 o'clock, you were still there. So the times aren't matching up. And I'm just trying to get an understanding of why.
I believe I left. So that's not the first time I was at my office that day.
There were several readings, but your card wouldn't work. Somebody actually had to let you in.
Okay.
But I've got your card opening the door at the law firm at 5:30. And then Randy saying when he left at 6, you were still there. I'm trying to understand.
I left the office earlier than I normally do.
What's your normal time to leave?
I mean, it's not unusual for me to be there till dark. I try to get home when Maggie's home, before dark.
She don't like staying out there by herself in the dark.
That's right. If it was 5:30 or 6, I don't think I was still there at 6 o'clock. But if I was, it wasn't long after that.
Okay.
So, I believe that I went straight home. So, my car, have y'all been able to get Chevrolet to download my?
We're still working on that.
Okay.
It's a long process.
Well, I got home early enough for Paul and I to ride the property for a substantial length of time. More than an hour. I thought probably a couple of hours that we were together, but somewhere.
Did you go down the river?
We rode down all the roads. I believe that we rode all over. We rode all over.
Some of your questions, I know you probably have more, but with my questionings, trying to get some things cleared up, have I given you some answers?
Well, I do know more than I did, for sure. So, yes, some of those questions have certainly, yes, sir.
What other questions do you have that?
I would like to know exactly what happened.
Me too. The best that I've been able to put together.
Tell me, it looks like. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Alex gets emotional and looks down, avoiding eye contact with the detective. Stressful situations can trigger feelings of vulnerability, fear, or discomfort. Avoiding eye contact can be a way to minimize exposure to these emotions or prevent others from noticing their emotional state. Once a suspect is confronted with incriminating information and feels that they have no way out, they often sink into a defensive state and avoid eye contact.
Did y'all get any kind of forensic off of anything that y'all found? Just the rain and the...
We got plenty of DNA from the scene, but
Yeah.
It's Nolan's, it's Rogan's, it's Alex, it's Paul's, it's Maggie's, it's Buster's.
Everybody's...
Yeah.
David, can you tell me for sure? Did either one of them live after they were shot first time?
Not long.
Does that mean?
The shooting happened very quickly. Very quickly.
Alex appears deeply troubled by the thought of his wife and son suffering after they were shot. However, the authenticity of his emotions should not be construed as an indicator of his innocence. It is entirely possible for an individual to commit such a heinous act against his own family and still be overwhelmed by emotional turmoil in the aftermath. Throughout the rest of the interview, the police ask him more details about his timeline and the types of guns that he had at the house. But they still don't have enough evidence to arrest him. The case goes unsolved, but over the coming months, Alex's financial crimes are gradually exposed. On October 14th, 2022, Alex was arrested for swindling millions of dollars from the clients of his law firm. Investors later find out that the CFO of the law firm called him on June 7th, confronting him about missing payments. Here, a possible motive finally comes together. Alex killed his wife and son in a desperate attempt to deflect attention from his financial crimes. On July 14, 2022, Alex Murdaugh was indicted for 2 counts of murder. On March 2, 2023, he was convicted on both counts and will spend the rest of his life in prison.